With the absolute fall of Boris Johnson today, and not only the complete and utter implosion of Liz Truss, you have seen the complete and utter rout of what was essentially the far right libertarian free market fundamentalist fringe that has been very much in power. And essentially, it was at its zenith when Liz Truss arrived into Parliament, but then came very, very quickly crashing to the ground. Why? All because this part of the Conservative Party is obsessed with magical thinking. It has no rational thought. It is all based on pure ideology. Liz Truss's whole plan was essentially trickle down economics, that if you cut the taxes for the top, all the top earners and all these big business, that somehow all this money was going to trickle down to the bottom, and that you could just borrow for days because it would somehow be offset by the magical growth that would just spring up as if from nowhere. And that was the magical thinking that has been dominating the Tory party for quite some time. Going back to the David Cameron eras, where the Eurosceptics and the ERG started to make their presence felt. And one of the things that we've almost seen, almost dramatically, is the questioning now of Brexit. Because remember, my favorite leave quote ever from Daniel Hannan: only a fool would leave the single market. There are now serious calls and serious conversations about we should renegotiate Brexit. Because if you start down that path, then our path back to rejoining the EU is pretty much set in stone. And that is exactly what we are seeing today, especially with this. So before we do get into this, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. And of course, the YouTube thank you button as well, and the Pony Club you can join down below as well for the YouTube subscription link that you can join too. So let's go over to this, because I think this is not going to be the first call, but it just goes to show you just how much power these libertarian right-wingers have actually lost in the Conservative Party. And this could be a dramatic turn, a very dramatic turn in the story of Brexit, as we now start to, well, our journey back to being part of Europe again. So let's go over to this then. This comes from The Guardian with the title of "Tory Backer Says that the UK economy is frankly doomed without Brexit renegotiation." The billionaire businessman Guy Hans has accused the Conservatives of putting the UK on a path to be the sick man of Europe, as he issues a series of stark predictions about what could lie ahead for the post-Brexit economy, including higher taxes and interest rates and fewer social services. The founder and chair of the private equity firm Terra Firma, and a long-time Tory supporter, has called on the government to renegotiate Brexit, stating that otherwise the British economy was frankly doomed. And remember, what caused us to join sort of the beginnings of sort of the European Union anyway? It was businessmen calling on the Tories to rejoin Europe. Why? Because at that time, our entire economy was based on colonies and exploiting those colonies, and those had gone. And Britain had very, very much lost that power and that ability to do that. Colonies were no longer a thing. So we had to sort of rejoin and refigure out how our economy was going to work. And businessmen continuously made the call, we need to be part of Europe. And this is exactly what is happening again. So anyway, he continues. He said the Conservative Party needed to move from fighting its own internal wars and actually focus on what needs to be done in the economy, Hans told Radio 4's Today programme on Monday. Hans, who had called for Britain to remain in the EU before the referendum, has accused the Tories of making errors since the 2016 vote. He said the party needed to start admitting some of the mistakes that have been made over the last 6 years, which have frankly put this country on a path to being the sick man of Europe. Hans said that the Prime Minister Liz Truss had attempted to follow the quote, dream of Brexit and a low tax, low benefit economy, but added that this clearly isn't something which is acceptable to the British people. He said, once you accept that you can't actually do that, the Brexit that was done is completely hopeless and will only drive Britain into a disastrous economic state. On the day that Rishi Sunak is expected to become Britain's next Prime Minister, a third in less than 2 months, hopefully last a bit, Hans called for a Tory leader with the intellectual capability and the authority to renegotiate Brexit and to turn around the economy. And without that, the economy is frankly doomed, Hans said. Asked what this would mean for the country, Hans said without renegotiation of Brexit, Britain would face steadily increasing taxes, steadily reducing benefits and social services with higher interest rates, and eventually the need from a bailout from the MIF, or the International Monetary Fund, like we were in the 70s. Hans, who estimated that at least 70% of his firm's investments were in the UK, said that he was worried about the increasing poverty, including the middle class people who would struggle to meet their mortgage payments amid the rising interest rates. So here we are, the exact thing that happened. I mean, I think he gets it exactly right. This was what it was all about. This was really it, and this is the key quote. He said, Liz Truss had attempted to follow the dream of Brexit and the low tax, low benefit economy. He added that this is clearly isn't something which is acceptable to the British people. And once you accept that you can't actually do that, the Brexit that was done is completely hopeless and will only drive Britain into a disastrous economic state. That is the key takeaway there, because that was what was essentially done. We have had a small, and it's frightening to really think about this, a very small group of hard Brexit ultrateers who, going back to Theresa May, could have had Brexit, but quite frankly, the Brexit that was being offered by Theresa May was just not hard enough because they wanted that low tax, low benefit, low regulation dream state of Brexit. And what happened? They pushed as hard as they can and they got rid of Theresa May to cause complete and utter chaos. And eventually, they pushed for their man, Boris Johnson, who once again promised this dream version of Brexit. We said, oh, don't worry, we'll do this Northern Ireland deal. And then after, well, we don't have to worry about it because we can just change it as and when we will. And that is part of the problem we've got with the Northern Ireland situation at the moment. And then, of course, you get Liz Truss, who, remember, a lot of these Brexiteers were saying that Boris wasn't Brexiting right. Very interesting when you start to remember those initial comments back then. And then you get Liz Truss, who tried to follow through on this dream of the Brexit that they had truly wanted, this low regulation, low tax, low benefit, massive, insanely growth state that they wanted. That dream has now gone. It has fallen through and it has failed. And this whole Brexit that was negotiated to try and achieve that aim has completely and utterly failed. So we are at a state now where intellectually and honestly, Brexit is going to have to be fundamentally rethought and renegotiated. And there are going to be a lot of Tories who are going to be upset about that, especially the Red Wall Tories, who fought an entire election based on the idea of this Brexit vote that Boris Johnson had sold to them. But of course, it hasn't worked and it will not work because we need to be part of Europe and part of the single market. We've seen how damaging it can be. And now that you've got businesses, and I hope this starts a trend of big business leaders calling for this, because the Tories will sit up and start to listen about this. And I hope this does give a lot more power to those Tories who do want to be part again of Europe and sort of the single market to start their own calls and start a proper, true discussion about this. because this is how we get back in, folks. So this could be the start of it all, but it's still a long way to go. But this could just be the very start of it. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do watch and support the channel. And of course, we'll see you all next time.